So in this MTSS blueprint, the outside circle talks about implementation drivers. We look at competency drivers, leadership drivers, and implementation drivers. And all of these come from the study of implementation science. Implementation science actually started in the medical field, and they tried to understand why is there such a significant gap between research and implementation. When they first started studying implementation science, they realized that often when there was evidence-based practices that we knew would be better for healthcare, it took between 7 and 14 years to actually implement those changes fully. And that is way too much time. And so we started looking at what are the factors that actually speed up implementation, hopefully so we can create systems that change very, very quickly in only 4 to 7 years as opposed to 14 to 17. Now, even though 4 years may seem like a lot, when we think about the barriers that our systems face, it's not too crazy to think about that it will take a couple years of district improvement planning to address things like scheduling, curriculum, staffing, and professional development. As you go through the MTSS Readiness tool, you'll see all the different pieces of those implementation drivers, and while they'll be really important for you to address in your action planning to ensure that you can meet the needs of all students. So let's just take 1 second to talk about what the difference is between evidence-based and research-based, because implementation science is an evidence-based process for creating systems of implementation. We have now moved beyond healthcare because implementation science is used in Fortune 500 companies and businesses and also in education. And so what we want to understand is what allows some districts and organizations to implement a system faster than others. And again, those are going to be your drivers. Understanding the drivers through the MTSS Readiness tool will help you to determine areas of strength and areas that you need to address in former planning. But to go back really quickly to talk about what is this evidence-based process that's going to allow us to turn our system to meet the needs of all students, we have to understand the new definition of evidence-based in the Every Student Succeeds Act. Now, ESSA requires that all districts create multi-tiered systems that are evidence-based as opposed to research-based. Now, it might sound like the same thing, but it's actually quite different. Research-based means that there is some research somewhere that has actually contributed to a knowledge base about this idea. So as an example, Universal Design for Learning has 30 years of research in cognitive neuroscience on how the brain learns and how you can meet the needs of all students through the flexible design of curriculum and instruction. Now, I right now could just create a product, a universally designed curriculum, and tell you this is research-based, and maybe you would buy it from me. The reality is there is no evidence at all that my product or process works because there is not an evidence-based. An evidence-based process means that it has gone through a rigorous peer-reviewed research process where there is a treatment group and a control group, and they can actually measure quantitatively the effect of the treatment. MTSS, again, when you are using implementation science, is an evidence-based process. So it's really important to unpack what those drivers are, again, to celebrate the areas that you already have in place in your system, and then also to acknowledge and review the areas that have not yet been built. Because in acknowledging and planning to build these critical areas, you'll be able to create an academic, behavioral, and social-emotional environment that is the least restrictive environment for all students to excel together in Tier 1 general education classrooms. And then also you'll have a strong culture of data where some students, when they need more, will get more, which will allow you to create a system of equity and access.